So, what is menopause? Menopause is the time of final menstrual period followed by 12 months of amenorrhea. It mainly occurs primarily due to ovarian failure. Average age is 52 years and the range varies from 40 to 58 years. Age is determined by genetic factors and it is unaffected by race, ethnicity, or the age at menarche. Early menopause occurs when the age is between 40 to 45 years, and if menopause is occurring at less than 40 years of age, it is premature menopause. There are three classifications based on the Stock classification system of menopause, and menopause transition is marked by menstrual irregularity to the final menstrual period, and then there occurs a perimenopause age group where there is menopausal transition after 1 year of final menstrual period. Currently 10% of the Indian population is in menopause age group, that is around 43 million. Now there are primary health and quality of life concerns associated with these female. There can be vasomotor symptoms, genitourinary syndrome of menopause, sexual dysfunction, osteoporosis, cardiovascular diseases, breast cancers, and a cognitive decline. Now what happens if early menopause is occurring? So these are the risk factor for early menopause. There can be environmental factors like toxin exposure, history of smoking in the patient, history of iatrogenic interventions like pelvic or ovarian surgeries, pelvic radiation, chemotherapy, genetic abnormalities like Fragile X syndrome and Turner mosaic karyotypes, and there can be association with autoimmune disorders also. Now according to NICE guidelines, we can make a diagnosis of menopause, and healthy women with more than 40 years showing menopausal symptoms, or a perimenopausal age group female showing vasomotor symptom and the irregular periods can be considered for menopause. And usually we do not do laboratory and imaging test, but if we want to diagnose the menopause manually, only then we can check her FSH levels in both the age groups with early menopause and the premature menopause. Now, based on clinical practice guidelines, menopause can be diagnosed retrospectively by history taking, and menopause transition is associated with menstrual irregularity. Now we can check FSH in patients. If the FSH is more than 10, then this suggests declining ovarian function. If FSH is more than 20, this indicates ovarian insufficiency in the perimenopausal age group, and the FSH more than 40 indicates menopause or menopausal impending menopause at least 4 weeks apart. So this test is to be repeated twice. FSH is the most reliable marker, and this is also associated with low estradiol levels because there is declining ovarian function. AMH levels are undetectable because there are no ovum left, and inhibin AFC and ovarian volume are also decreased in case of menopause. Now what is the differential diagnosis of menopause? So if patient is having a cessation of menses, then there could be association with hypothalamic dysfunction, means her LH-FSH are abnormally low, and hypothyroidism can be associated with menopause. Pregnancy is a state where there is no menses. PCOS is also a condition where there is hormonal imbalance, and prolactin secreting tumor. So what are the differential diagnoses? Hypothalamic dysfunction, prolactin secreting tumors like prolactinoma, pregnancy, PCOS, and hypothyroidism. So the pathophysiology is that from hypothalamus GnRH is released, and which acts on the anterior pituitary to release FSH and LH. FSH acts on the granulosa cell which releases inhibin and act as a negative feedback loop to anterior pituitary, while LH acts on the theca cells to produce androgen, and in the granulosa cell, under the effect of granulosa cell, this androgen is converted to estrogen. Now this estrogen will be showing either positive and negative impact based on the levels of estrogen. And what happens in premenopausal hypothalamus pituitary gonadal axis, hypothalamus secretes GnRH, LH, FSH are also released from anterior pituitary. They are acting on the ovaries, and estradiol, progesterone, inhibin B active in all are acting, but this is not occurring. Usually this does not occur. So when there is early menopausal transition, then there is follicular depression. This follicle depression causes decrease recruited follicles, and there is decreased chances of ovulation, there are decreased chances of corpus luteum, and hence progesterone is low, so this patient can have light bleeding and lengthening of the cycle. Also these follicles are less in number, so the granulosa cell will also be less, and there is decreased inhibin B. This increased inhibin B creates a positive feedback or decreased negative feedback on pituitary and hypothalamus, and FSH is increased. This leads to shorter cycle and shorter duration of follicular phase of menstrual cycle. And now because estradiol is reduced, so estradiol with decrease the SHBG and LH will be increased, so there is decreased androgen but maintained relatively high concentration, especially free testosterone is high in these females, and because granulosa cell are less in number, so anti-Mullerian hormone will also be less, and because anti-Mullerian hormone is the best indicator of follicular reserve, and in these females the follicular reserve is usually decreased. So ovarian senescence or ovarian depletion begins in utero. Inhibin B are reduced, which are the primary initiator of menopause, and as the age increases, inhibin B levels are decreased, so FSH will increase. Hence, the number of recruited follicles are increased, and total number of follicles will be reduced. Initially, estradiol is high due to high FSH and increase in aromatase activity. Later, when all the follicles get depleted, then estrogen also reduces, and progesterone we have seen that has reduced. LH is increased, so does the androgens, and hence these females are having high LH and FSH levels. So the menopausal HMG or human menopausal gonadotropins can be used for in vitro fertilization cycles in the ovulation induction protocols. So this is very important. This is straw staging. Straw is staging of reproductive aging workshop, and here we have divided the female's life is into three parts: reproductive phase, menstrual, menopausal or menopausal transition phase, and perimenopausal age group, and postmenopause. Now the term this starts from -5 to +2. So stages are -5, -4, -3, -2, -1, and then 0 means the final menstrual period, and then postmenopause +1 and +2. So the duration of a stage of reproductive age is variable. Menstrual cycles are usually regular. Endocrine function की बात करें तो normal FSH, and in the late reproductive phase the FSH is higher. And now coming to menopausal transition. Menopausal transition is divided into two parts, that is early menopause and late menopause. Duration is also variable in various individuals, and here the menstrual cycles are more than 7 days, means there is oligomenorrhea, or more than 2 cycles skipped, or a period interval of amenorrhea more than 60 days. So there can be a 2-month amenorrhea seen in the late menopausal transition phase, and here the FSH levels are high as compared to late reproductive years. Now coming to postmenopausal age group. So after the final menstrual period, there is a duration of around 1 year, which is known as a perimenopausal age group, and in this perimenopausal age group includes menopausal transition as well as 1 year after the final menstrual period, and it is early postmenopause phase. Now after 5 years of final menstrual period, there occurs postmenopausal phase, and then late postmenopausal phase, where there is complete depletion of the follicle, and this lasts till the death of the female, and the menstrual cycles are not present. And when we check the FSH level is skyrocketing in this phase. So the transition from reproductive to post-reproductive life, final menstrual period as serving as an anchor, -5 to -1 precede, and then +1, +2 follow the final menstrual period. Perimenopausal climacteric by -1, -2 to +1, and irregular menses 2 +1 after we have already discussed it, and then followed by late menopause. This is already discussed in the diagrams. Now what are the symptoms? Starting from head, patient can have headaches, thinning of hair because hormones are getting depleted, loss of memory, hot flushes, sleep disturbances, strange dreams, tinnitus, itchy ear, heavy eyes, hypo and hyperparathyroidism. And when come to chest, then there can be night sweats, feeling overheated, muscles are also thin, loss of tone, breast sagging, weight gain can be seen, heart palpitations, bloating, indigestion, constipation, visceral abdominal abdominal fat, sweet cravings, dryness on skin of the back of the hand, general skin dryness, vagina is also dry, so there occurs urinary tract infections, burning mixed sensation, and fluctuation of the menstrual cycle, and libido is also less. In the bones there can be osteoporosis because estrogen is getting lost, and cracked heels, fungal infections, loose pulpy soles of the feet. So these are the grave symptoms of the menopause, and which every female faces. Now coming to vasomotor symptoms occurs in around 75% of the perimenopausal age group. 80% endure symptoms for more than 1 year and 50% for more than 5 years. Hot flashes are the primary reason that a female presents at the clinic to seek care, and consequences of sudden estrogen withdrawal. This leads to increase in norepinephrine, increase in serotonin, increasing central opioid peptides. What this causes? This causes a narrowing of the thermoneutral zone, means at a temperature that I am right now having in my room, I will not be feeling heat, but this center is present in the hypothalamus, so there is narrowing of this temperature. So even at normal temperature these females will have sweating, and this is called as the hot flashes. So there is narrowing of the thermoneutral zone, presenting as hot flashes, and it is accompanied by anxiety and palpitations. So hot flashes, anxiety, palpitations occur in the vasomotor symptoms. These vasomotor symptoms usually last for 1 to 5 minutes and usually occur at the night, leading to sleep dysfunction and the fatigue. So what hormones are responsible for this vasomotor symptoms? Due to sudden estrogen withdrawal, there is increase in norepinephrine, 5-hydroxy trypto 5-hydroxytryptamine, and increased central opioid peptides. Now, vasomotor symptoms can be seen in females with surgical menopause, means if there is history of any malignancy and we have removed their ovaries. So this bilateral oophorectomy can be associated with vasomotor symptoms, history of smoking, early menopause, and low BMI of the patient, low estradiol levels in case of ovarian cyst, pelvic radiation, and chemotherapy. These risk factors can be associated with vasomotor symptoms. Now, how will you treat vasomotor symptoms? So the vasomotor symptoms can be treated by systemic estrogen therapy, most effective treatment for vasomotor symptom, and the lowest effective drug is used. So what we do, we systemically give estrogen because the pathophysiology is due to sudden withdrawal of estrogen. Also the routes can be oral, transdermal, or vaginal. Progestin therapy should always be done if the female is having uterus, to prevent endometrial cancer due to unopposed estrogen use in the menopausal age group. Progestin administration can be done daily or cyclically with daily dosing, means in the first half of the cycle we are going to give estrogen, and the last half of the cycle we are going to give progesterone. OCPs is an excellent option because they contain both estrogen and progesterone component, and healthy non-smoking perimenopausal women can be advised OCPs. Now there is one approved tissue selective estrogen complex that can be used in women with uterus. This includes CEE conjugated equine estrogen in a dose of 0.45 milligrams, and bezidoxifene 20 milligrams, which is protective to the endometrium. So these are oral estrogen products. So if you want to give oral estrogen, then 17 beta estradiol coming with a brand name of Astrace can be given in a dose of 0.5 to 2. Conjugated equine estrogens like Premarin, which can be taken orally, and Juvia 0.3 to 2.5 milligrams per day. Esterified estrogen and estrone Menest 0.6 to 5 to 2.5 milligrams per day can be given to the patient, and topical and transdermal estrogen products like a patch, gel, or spray can also be used. 17 beta estradiol matrix patch that names comes with names Alora, Climera, Vivaldot, Menostar. OD once weekly or twice weekly can be given. Gel in the form of estrogel, Elastin, Divigel can be used daily application with meter dose pump, and spray means Eva Mist daily application with 1 to 3 sprays daily can be suggested to the patient. Now, so this is the oral estrogen product. This is tissue selective estrogen complex. This is oral estrogen. This is topical or transdermal. Now coming to combination of products. So oral continuous. So this depends on the regime that we are using. Now we can use oral continuous cyclic regime. We can use oral continuous combined regime, oral intermittent combined regime, and transdermal continuous combined regime. So if we are adding conjugated equine estrogen with medroxyprogesterone acetate, coming with the name of prem phase, in which 0.6 to 5 milligrams of estrogen and 5 milligrams medroxyprogesterone acetate is given. Now you can give estrogen alone for one starting half of the cycle, and then for last of the cycle we have to combine the dose of estrogen and progesterone. Oral continuous combined regime means first combo is the same like previous, and it is coming under the name of Prem Pro, and this combination is to be taken daily. Now another combination with 17 beta estradiol and norethindrone acetate, naming Activella, 1 milligram plus 0.5 milligram can be used, or drospirenone, coming with the name of Angelic, 1 milligram estradiol and 0.5 milligram progesterone can be advised. Oral intermittent combined regime means 17 बीटा एस्ट्राडायोल प्लस नॉर्जेस्टिमेट। प्री फेस्ट के नेम से आता है। इसमें हम लोग स्टार्टिंग के 3 डेज में वी हैव टू गिव ईस्ट्रोजन अलोन, देन 3 days ईस्ट्रोजन प्लस प्रोजेस्ट्रॉन, एंड देन वी हैव टू रिपीट इट अगेन। सो 3 days ईस्ट्रोजन, 3 days कॉम्बिनेशन, 3 days ईस्ट्रोजन, 3 days कॉम्बिनेशन, विद दिस वे वी हैव टू गिव। सो दिस इज नोन एज ओरल इंटरमीडिएंट combined regime. Transdermal continuous combined regime means Combipatch and Climera Pro, which contains 17 Bistra, estradiol and norethindrone acetate, and this can be given once weekly like Climera Pro, and twice weekly in case of Combipatch. Now what are the contraindications? Because this contain an estrogen component, so this is not to be given in patients of heart disease, venous thromboembolism, or if there is association with suspected breast or endometrial cancer, undiagnosed AUB, or genital bleeding, or if active liver or gallbladder disease is there, then we have to switch to another option, and these are the contraindications to hormone therapy. Now this hormone replacement therapy can have alternatives in those females who do not are the candidates for hormone replacement therapy. So what are the alternatives? The alternatives includes SSRI or SNRI. SSRIs are selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, while norepinephrine is selective norepinephrine reuptake inhibitor, and they are the mainstay of non-hormonal vasomotor symptom treatment. Venlafaxine 150 milligrams OD for 1 month reduces hot flashes by 61%. Paroxetine 12.5 to 25 milligram OD can be given to reduce hot flashes by 60%. Paroxetine, venlafaxine, escitalopram can be used. Paroxetine is avoided in a breast cancer patient taking tamoxifen, gamma amino butyric acid like gabapentin, pregabalin also reduces hot flash, and clonidine can also be used off label. So non-hormonal contraceptive medication, centrally acting clonidine, then SSRI, SNRI, paroxetine, venlafaxine, escitalopram, GABA drugs like gabapentin, pregabalin, and non-hormone non-prescription medication including isoflavoin supplements, soy products, because this is thought to be containing estrogen, black cohosh. Lifestyle changes are also advised like maintaining a healthy weight, smoking cessation, relaxation response techniques, yoga, and the acupuncture. Now another terminology is genitourinary syndrome of menopause, because in this the symptomatology is due to estrogen deficiency and typically worsens in the absence of treatment. So here what happens that the vaginal pH is increased, so the pH becomes 4.5 to 7, which is alkaline, and it is associated with increased risk of infections like genital irritation, dryness, urinary urgency, dysuria, recurrent UTI, pain with sexual activity, and it affects the laxity of ligament structures of the pelvic floor. This leads to incontinence and prolapse. Vulvovaginal atrophy can occur in 50% of the menopausal women, and the treatment includes vaginal lubricants based on water, silicone, and oil based, pelvic physical therapy, vaginal moisturizers, and vaginal dilators for dyspareunia. So we can lubricate the vagina, we can advise pelvic physical therapy, vaginal moisturizers, and vaginal dilators can be used. And if these if non-hormonal therapies are ineffective, then ET is approved for treatment. Now, estrogen therapy is approved for treatment. Low dose estrogen, vaginal creams, tablets, vaginal rings are preferred over systemic therapy in the absence of vasomotor symptoms. Now, there are vaginal estrogen products like vaginal creams, Estrace, Premarin, Estring, Vagifem, Femring, Imixi, which contains estrogen, and then progesterone can also be there. That includes Provera and Prometrium. Now, there can be vaginal changes in the menopause which can lead to sexual dysfunction or dyspareunia. It is seen in 40% of the females and associated with personal distress. Etiology is multifactorial, and this can be causing depression, anxiety, relationship conflict, fatigue, abuse in the female, and endometriosis or GSM causes dyspareunia. So, in contrast to estrogen therapy, androgen therapy, which can improve the sexual function, is recommended. And but these androgens can cause cardiovascular event and breast cancer, so we have to give treatment for depression and anxiety through starting antidepressants. Bupropion, sildenafil citrate can be given to benefit in arousal and orgasmic response. Now, coming to osteoporosis, very important. 35 million US women are affected with osteoporosis, and 60%, 66% of the women with more than 50 years of age develop osteoporosis. This is due to the low bone mass in these females, which are the primary risk factors for osteoporosis and the fractures. And the bone mineral density is very important, which determines the fracture risk, diagnoses osteoporosis, and identify beneficiary by therapeutic interventions. So, what we advise? We advise DEXA scan, which is dual X-ray absorptiometry scan, primary technique for BMD assessment, where though score we can give. Two scores includes the T score and the Z score. T score is used in in this female with the standard deviation above or below the mean bone mineral density for a healthy 30-year-old woman. So here comparison is done with a healthy 30-year-old woman, and in Z score the comparison is done with the women of similar age group. Normal bone mineral density has a T score of -1 to -2.5. So minus is normal here, and if the T score is less than 2.5 minus में, then it is osteoporosis. Pharmacological treatment is indicated if the women with osteoporosis having a T score of -2.5. So, what are the risk factors for osteoporosis? The risk factors are divided into non-modifiable risk factor, modifiable risk factor, and the medical conditions that can aggravate osteoporosis. So, the non-modifiable risk factors are age, race, small body frame, early menopause is a risk factor, prior history of adult fracture, family history of osteoporosis. Modifiable risk factor includes daily intake of calcium and vitamin D, smoking, low body weight, and excessive alcohol use, sedentary lifestyle. Associated medical conditions which can aggravate osteoporosis includes anovulation during reproductive years due to disordered eating or excessive exercise, hypo and hyperparathyroidism, hyperthyroidism, chronic renal disease, CKD patient, rheumatoid arthritis, and steroid use. Now, recommendations to reduce risk of falls and fracture. So we advise them calcium and vitamin D. Calcium given in a dose of 1200 milligrams per day with supplementation only if dietary intake is sufficient. And vitamin D is given through diet or either through supplementation of 800 to 1000 international unit per day. Regular weight bearing exercises, muscle strengthening exercises to improve balance, strength, and reduce the risk of falls and fracture is recommended. Smoking and alcohol, cessation, depressants which acts on CNS are to be limited. Visual corrections when needed, and home safety assessment like carpet stairs, installations to grab bars in tubs and showers, and night lights are recommended. Now, what is the treatment of osteoporosis? So hormone replacement therapy can be given, and it is FDA approved for osteoporosis because it inhibits bone resorption. Tissue selective estrogen complex like estrogen with basidoxifene can also be given, which is thought to be improve menopausal female women with uterus. Raloxifene prevents vertebral fracture in women with low bone mass and osteoporosis. Bisphosphonates are the drug of choice, and it inhibits bone resorption by preventing and treatment of osteoporosis. These bisphosphonate like zoledronate and other drugs can be taken empty stomach with a glass full of water water and remain upright for 30 minutes because it is associated with gastric acidity. Denosumab, which is a monoclonal body against the rank ligand, is also approved for the treatment of postmenopausal osteoporosis, and it decreases vertebral and hip fracture by inhibiting the osteoclast cells. Parathormone like teriparatide and abalopeptide, miacalcin, which is calcitonin nasal spray, are also recommended. So what drug we have recommended? Hormone therapy, tissue selective estrogen complex, raloxifene, bisphosphonates, denosumab, paratide drugs, and calcitonin like miacalcin. So bisphosphonates examples are alendronate, risindronate, ibandronate, zoledronic acid. So alendronate and risindronate are oral drugs, and they have to be given alendronate per week, and per month tablet of risindronate. Ibandronate is to be given every 3 months IV, or can be given orally also. So it can be given oral and IV both. Zoledronic acid is given IV annually, and the potential risk factors includes esophageal ulcers, osteonecrosis of the jaw, atypical femoral fractures, and can be associated with hypocalcemia, atrial fibrillation, renal impairment in case of zoledronate, and the side effect includes GI distress, arthralgia, myalgia. Now hormonal therapy, we already have discussed. They can be given for vasomotor symptoms, pseudogenital atrophy, and the potential risk because of estrogen component can be coronary artery disease or venous thromboembolic events, gallbladder disease, and the breast cancer. Side effects include vaginal bleeding and the breast tenderness. Now, tissue selective estrogen complex known as bazidoxifene in a dose of 20 milligrams per day tablet can also be given. Raloxifene, which is an estrogen selective estrogen receptor modulator, and it can also reduce the risk of breast cancer. So if there is a female with breast cancer and osteoporosis, raloxifene can be advised, and it comes under the name Avesta in a dose of 60 milligrams per day OD. Others like teriparatide and can be given. Denosumab, which is a monoclonal antibody against rank ligand, can also be used. And another drug, miacalcin, which is a calcineurin inhibitor, can also be used. Calcitonin inhibitor can also be used. Now, in these menopausal females, there can be cardiovascular disease also. Cardiovascular disease is the leading cause of death for women, and 90% of the women can have more than one risk factor. Non-modifiable factors like age and family history, and modifiable risk factor like sedentary lifestyle, obesity, smoking, diabetes, hypertension, hyperlipidemia. Estrogen is cardioprotective, so after menopause, patient can develop cardiovascular disease, and after menopause catches up to that of a male counterpart at the age of 70 years. So management includes to alter the modifiable risk factor and adequately treating diabetes, hypertension, and hyperlipidemia. There is one very important trial which is WHI trial, which after 5 years of follow-up there is increased risk of cardiovascular events and pulmonary embolism with estrogen progesterone therapy. The timing hypothesis proposes that the early initiation of hormonal therapy does not increase the risk of cardiovascular disease risk when started in a woman aged under 30 years. Now, there is also a risk of breast cancer, which is a major health concern. It is the most common cancer in women, and the second cancer leading to the cancer death. Regular screening is recommended in menopausal age group, and the screening should be started at 40 years, but not more than 50 years. Annual mammography is recommended till 75 years of age, and long-term use of combined hormonal therapy increases the risk of breast cancer. So the risk of breast cancer is not increased with the use of estrogen alone in women without uterus. Tamoxifen, approved for the treatment of estrogen receptor positive cancer, and it decreases the risk of breast cancer, increases the risk of endometrial cancer and the venous thromboembolism. So tamoxifen is a treatment of choice, but this can be associated with endometrial cancer and venous thromboembolism also. Aromatase inhibitors can be given, which are the adjuvant therapy for early stage receptor positive breast cancer. Now, there is also cognitive decline and dementia, which are the most common concerns of menopause. Alzheimer's disease is increased risk. Then there is a Y study we have already studied. Then there is WIMS study, which is done for estrogen progesterone trial, and there is significant twofold increase in the risk of dementia with estrogen progesterone therapy, and the risk with estrogen alone is not significant. Means this is occurring, this cognitive decline or dementia is occurring due to to progesterone component, not due to estrogen component. So what is the management? We have to tell the female to engage in behaviors that lowers the risk of dementia, like regularly she has to do exercise, quit smoking, avoid head injury, improve hearing, active learning, stay socially engaged, and treat the underlying hypertension and diabetes. So the take home message is, since a woman will live approximately 30 years or greater than that in the third of her life beyond menopause, therefore it is important to ensure these years are as healthy and productive as possible by being aware of the menopausal changes and ready to seek help when needed. Thus, menopause phase of life is utmost concern and should never be neglected. So, perimenopause symptoms and signs, no one told you about that, actually start in your late 30s and the early 40s. So, be careful. Thank you.